some of the things that we've read and looked over and got through FOIA requests is just absolutely mind blowing. I mean, you don't need to be on drugs. Just get some FOIA requests into the government and read some of their stuff. They just claim they know nothing about UFOs. They know nothing about abductions. They know nothing about this. They know nothing about that. And yet there's paperwork, that shows that they have studied abductions in the past. They still study it. They've studied UFOs. They still study it. So the only thing we haven't gotten a FOIA request on is, are they looking for the Loch Ness monster? They have a nuclear sub floating around in the Ness. I don't know, but they know why these people are being abducted. I mean, that's as confusing as why are there so many people missing that we can't find.
Yeah. So who do these people make the reports to? That, I mean, besides organizations like yours, do they make reports to the military? Do they make reports to law enforcement agencies? Do they go to the hospitals?
I never had one. I've asked people that, did you report this to anybody else? And they've reported to MUFON, they've reported to us and to other groups, I'm sure. But the first thing that strikes me is that they go to paranormal groups and report it to paranormal groups.
Why do you think that is, Butch?
I have no idea. Why would you go to a paranormal group? You weren't kidnapped by a ghost.
Yeah.
And there was no ghostly thing going on in your house.
Is it possible because they feel that if they go to an established law enforcement agency or to a hospital or the military, that they'd would
be locked up?
Exactly.
Yeah, they'd put them away for a while.
Yeah.
I have never seen a report where it was reported to police. Not one. I've never seen one where it was reported to the government either. Most go to either UFO organizations, or there are a few abductee groups out there. Kathleen Martin has one down in Florida with Denise Stoner, and there's a group out in California. There's one that just started up in Maine called Starborn Support. I guess they're having their first big shindig in Maine, Portland, Maine, I believe, in September. And these are all people that were abductees that are doing the speaking. So, and some researchers. But, I've never heard anybody going to the police about it.
You and I can't talk about UFOs without me asking you a very simple question. What's new with the Roswell crash of 1947, if anything?
Well, I understand there's 3 or 4 new books coming out. Just seems like pretty much every day somebody comes up with a different scenario. Some of them now are really bordering on ludicrous.
Really?
Look, if you just look at what Jesse Marcel Sr. said and in his lifetime, and what Junior said in his lifetime, and guys that went out there and really looked like Don Schmidt and Stanton Friedman and all the people they interviewed. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. Those guys all came up with the same answer, and that's pretty much where it stays. But now you got there's this crash in Aztec. Now they're saying there's another crash that's north of Aztec that somebody's writing a book on. And so when you chalk off the fortune and glory, you revert back to the original story, and which has never been disproven, by the way. And everything they said, with the dummies, that was a lie.
Well, on the other side of the coin, it's never been proven either.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's never been proven. It's never been disproven. It's kind of like Bigfoot with the Patterson film.
Listen,
it's never been proven, and it's never been disproven.
Let me ask you this. Former law enforcement officer, if you were called or if you were dispatched to the scene of an alleged UFO crash, all right? You get there, you see evidence, you collect the evidence. Would you, being a professional, drive home, wake up your wife and child, and let them play with the evidence before you brought it back to headquarters?
Well, no. To be honest, no.
Yeah.
No, I'd get it under lock and key as fast as I could.
Exactly. And this is something I can't understand with the entire Jesse Marcel case and the Roswell case. Why did he...
But, that was asked to him at a conference, that exact same question.
And what did he say?
And he said his father said, he just, being that he had a young son who was very interested in what he did, and this was, something that was in his mind a once-in-a-lifetime thing that nobody would ever see again.
Right.
That he took these couple little pieces with him and showed them to his son up, got him out there and said, look, this is what happened, this is what we found.
Right.
He didn't leave it there. I mean, he took the stuff with him and turned it in, but he stopped at the house on his way back to the depot and showed him this stuff. And Jesse Marcel Jr. says that. He said, yeah, I only saw it for a couple of minutes. He said,
that's Jesse Marcel.
He had to get it back to the base, and off he went.
That's Jesse Marcel Jr. All right, but my entire way of looking at it doesn't give Jesse Marcel Sr. very much credibility as a professional.
No, and I'm going to agree with you there because, first of all, he never should have stopped at the house. That's number one.
Exactly.
And number two, he never should have come forward with that goofy story of the weather balloons. I mean, if this is what he saw,
right,
and that's what was in his report, when he backpedaled, that was bad. That would be like witnessing a shooting and then saying, well, it wasn't really a shooting. It was more of a disagreement, and, the gun fell on the ground, it went off and put a bullet in the guy's head, so let's just forget about it and chalk it up as just a misunderstanding. So, when you backpedal off a case, I don't care what kind of, if it's a UFO case, abduction case, cryptozoology, I don't care what kind of case it is. If you go after something and you've got something and you put it out there, you better be able to back it up and stand by it and have the documentation. If you don't have that documentation, it's just like the O.J. Simpson case.
Exactly. Oh, yeah.
I mean, the guy took the blood with, he took it home with him.
Yeah.
Then he took it back to the crime scene? What are you telling me?
There were so many FUBARs in that entire case.
Oh, God.
Mind you, today the parole board is granting parole on certain cases that he was convicted of.
Yeah, he's going to only have to do 4 more years instead of 30 or whatever it was.
And then,
and he's that type of individual that he'll get out and he'll be good for a year or two, and then he'll do something stupid again.
Yeah, mind you, he's getting up there in age, so let's hope he doesn't do too many stupid things.
Yeah, right.
Mind you, I really liked him as an actor, especially in the Naked Gun series, and then in Capricorn 1 with James Brolin. Now that raised a lot of questions. He was just one of those people that came out of nowhere and just excelled and excelled and excelled, and when he got to a certain point, like most of them, he just fell off the cliff. Yeah.
He didn't even bounce.
It's not the fall that kills, it's a sudden stop. Mm-hmm. Tell me, Butch, are there any new techniques in UFO research or spotting UFOs?
Well, we're going to try one. We have somebody donated a oscilloscope to us. And it's an older model, but it's one of the better ones. It's not a tube; it's all transistor. And we're going to hook up a Yagi antenna to it, and we are going to point it in the direction of the sky and chase a couple airplanes with it and see what kind of reading we get on the oscilloscope. And it also came with a program where we can download that information into a laptop, which is in the truck. And then we're going to see if anything surpasses that. In speed or height or anything else, it'll show up on that oscilloscope.
Wow, that's excellent. That's excellent. I understand that mythical creature sightings are also on the rise.
Yeah. Well, they give me a headache. I mean, when people send me an email and they say, look, Lizard Man is in my backyard, and I'm going like, what do you mean Lizard Man's in your backyard? And they start to describe a reptilian. And he's out there playing with the dog. I said, well, what is he doing? What do you mean he's playing with the dog? Is he throwing him a bone or a stick and the dog is bringing it back? What's going on? He says, no, he's just standing there swatting at him. I said, well, maybe he's trying to kill the dog. And you can't get around these people because they just will not stop. And then you have certain researchers that will push it. Yes, there are lizard men. Yes, there is this. Yes, there is that. There are giant birds that come down and swoop down. They're bigger than an airplane. And let me tell you something. If there's a bird out there that's as big as a Cessna 172, and nobody has ever seen it but a handful of people across this country and in Canada and in South America, wow, I'm missing something.
It's either you're missing something or you're not taking something that allows you to see it. But you know what? Speaking about birds, giant birds, there's a problem these days in Alaska with the bald eagle attacking people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Well, here we have eagles here, but where we get a lot of these Thunderbird reports are blue herons.
Really?
And the person will call in, or they'll send an email, or they'll make a report of a very large bird, and a blue heron standing on its legs with its head extended. That's a good 5 foot, and it's a pretty good sized bird. And then all of a sudden it goes to researcher. Next thing you know, it's on the internet that the bird was there. It left no footprints. It disappeared while the people were looking at it, and you're off and running. Then people want to know why nobody takes them serious.
Well, listen, if it's on the internet, it's got to be true.
Yeah. I finished with the internet a year ago.
I call the internet the biggest septic tank that man has ever created.
And you are 100% right, because I've seen good researchers turn into just Frankensteins overnight.
You sent me.
They were out there getting their boots dirty. They were getting muddy knees. They were taking photographs.
Yep.
They were running their cars into the ground. Now they don't leave their desk, but they have a 50-inch screen in front of them, and they're doing all the research in the world.
Well,
then they write a book.
Yeah. Well, you see, once again, you're a law enforcement officer. You've got the training. You've got the background. You know that no crime is solved by just sitting behind a desk using NCIC and, hoping to get a hit. It doesn't work that way. You have to go out. You have to do the investigation. You have to go to the crime scene. You have to get the evidence. You have to talk to the witnesses. You have to do door-to-door knocking to find out if anybody in the neighborhood has seen, heard, or witnessed anything. You go back to the lab with your evidence. Can you just imagine the state of our law enforcement agencies if they just sat on their duffs watching computer screens?
The zombie apocalypse brings up something.
Yeah,
that's pretty much what it would be.
Exactly.
I mean, the groups of, like you said earlier in the broadcast, these groups are in constant war with each other.
Yeah.
They'll say hello to you and pat you on the back and tell you what a great job you're doing. You turn your back, and all of a sudden there's a knife in their hand. They close up shop and start new groups overnight. And as long as the first thing they do is they shut it down because they say nobody gets along. Then they start a new group. Then they get a new website up. Then they get new hats and a new name and new T-shirts printed and new coffee cups out there. And then they write a book, and then that goes sour, and they start all over again. And that's rampant. That's all over the country.
Butch, stand by, my friend. You and I have to take our final break for this hour. X Zone Nation. Butch Witkowski is our special guest. He's the director of UFO Research Center of Pennsylvania. www.paufosearch.com. Butch and I will be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away. And don't get abducted by aliens. Or Bigfoot. Or the Mothman. Or Reptilian with David Icke.
Oh, God.
With each new extreme weather event or terrorist act, it becomes increasingly obvious that we live in uncertain and challenging times. We all buy car insurance. Why not collapse and catastrophe insurance? Matthew Stein, an MIT-trained engineer and green builder, has written 2 outstanding books to help people prepare, plan for, and deal with everything from minor situations lasting a few days to full-on collapse. Matt's first book, When Technology Fails, is a manual for self-reliance, sustainable living, and surviving the long emergency. This massive book covers the gamut from first aid and emergency preparedness to alternative healing, renewable energy, primitive living skills, and 18th century technologies that could be critical to your comfort and survival in a long-lasting crisis. Matt's second book, When Disaster Strikes, is a comprehensive emergency preparedness handbook and survival guide. When Disaster Strikes is an essential item for every family's go bag. Both books are available at all usual sources. There's a wealth of totally free information posted at whentechfails.com, and author-signed copies may be purchased at mattstein.com. That's www.whentechfails.com and www.mattstein.com.